Let's talk about wading in a riffle. That's going to be, or any kind of wading. And let's talk about the safety of it and then some techniques you can use to help yourself. I'm in a riffle that we wade quite frequently, but we're never this far down. If you look at this down, I mean downstream, is pretty deep. It's like 7 feet deep. If this is another 6 or 8 inches deep, this is a very dangerous riffle. I would not be standing here, because if I slip, there's a good chance I'm going to get really, really wet or even possibly drowned in here. So that's not going to happen. What I would do is start upstream out of your camera range about 30 or 40 feet and then work my way down. So working down across a riffle is much more effective than trying to go straight across or upstream. Much easier. The other thing I do before I get into a riffle like this is I make sure my wader belt is as tight as I can possibly get it. I mean super, super tight. That's going to give me a bit of flotation, and in this, if I do fall in, and in this case I've only got about 40 feet and I'm into shallow enough water for me to stand up. So those two considerations. Number one, wade downstream a long way away from any dangerous water. This is dangerous water because it's deep. The other dangerous water would be because it's just fast and you can't get a grip in a very grippy, a really slippery stream. The other thing you can do to help yourself, and we're going to talk about the wading stick in just a second, but the other thing you can do that really helps when you wade is to face upstream and instead of wading sideways like this. The problem with wading sideways like this is if you need to turn around because all of a sudden you realize that current is too strong, very, very difficult to do that. Whereas if you're wading like this, I put one foot in front of the other. And then what I do is I solidly plant my front foot, move my back foot until it gets to a nice place, and then move my front foot. And then I'd move my back foot and my front foot. My back foot, find a good spot. That front foot is solid. The other thing it does is your front foot is always protecting your back foot a little bit. So when you let go, that front foot has when you take a step, now I'm going to step here. And then I'm going to step here. So that's a really good wading technique in deeper water. Now let's talk about the wading stick. The wading stick, if you decide to wade like this, sideways, then you want your wading stick, I think, to be below you. Because if you put your wading stick below you, you can now move this leg and then this leg, plant the wading stick, upstream leg, downstream leg. Everything's in a line. Plant the stick, upstream leg, downstream leg. Plant the stick, upstream leg, downstream leg. That's going to be your most effective tactic. And I think that you can get across some pretty heavy water if you're able to do that. The problem is if I get to here and I decide, oh my goodness, all of a sudden there's a deeper hole than I thought and I've got to turn around, this is kind of tricky. How do you turn around in this riffle? Especially if you can't go downstream. I'm one rod length away from 8 feet of water, right here. If I can't go downstream very much, and if I make a slip and slide downstream a little bit, I'm in trouble. That's why if you're here when you're wading, it's much easier. All you do is reverse it. Top foot, back foot. This way, you've got to turn around. How do you turn around? Right here, when you make that turn, the thing you can do is this. Just turn your upstream foot upstream. Turn your downstream foot upstream, and now you've been in that same position. You're back in that same position. And then you can start working your way across, same thing. Top foot, bottom foot. Top foot, bottom foot. And I keep this wading staff behind me. Same thing. I want it behind me. So that's how you wade. There's one other really good thing you can do, and we're going to show you that in just a second. And it is my preferred method of wading every single time. The very best way to cross a river is buddy wade. Man, if you've got 2 or 3 or even 4 people, it's unbelievable how much water you can get across. I'm going to grab his waders above his belt or his belt, one of the two. He's got his belt tightened up a lot, and I'm holding both rods. He's holding the wading staff. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to go a little bit first, up foot first, and now he's going to move his upper foot. Then what happens is his upper foot is blocking, making a little back eddy from my bottom foot. So now I can get a good grip with my bottom foot. Now I've got a great grip. His top leg is protected by my bottom leg, and his bottom leg is protected by his top leg. I'm going to make another step. When I make this, he's going to move his bottom leg even, right there. Now, when he does that, now he can move his next foot, right there. Then I'm going to step behind him. And we're just going to work our way across. And he's got his pole stuck in the ground, and he's leaning on that pole. But he's got to find a good spot for it. Don't go slipping off a rock and lose your balance. Stick that someplace where you know you have it. Now he can lean on it, and we're going to give each other protection. Now right now I just found I got a big rock here. I can't move my foot, so I would tell him, hold on just a second. I'm going to dig around until I find now I've got a good spot. Okay, go ahead. 1 foot at a time. There you go. So, very effective way of wading across a river. We're in good water now. We don't have to worry about it. Still hang on until the very end. We're wading very small rivers at this point. I would not recommend an elastic belt. It just isn't strong enough to buddy wade, and it's not firm enough to really keep water in your waders if you go in. So get yourself a good solid belt that doesn't give. So that's wading. I think wading is a very important thing to understand. You can wade pretty heavy water if you're careful and you understand the rules, and especially if you buddy wade. We've waded across some big water with 4 people in a line, with one of the people in the middle being completely off the bottom because they were too short and small. But you can wade big water if you're careful, but never wade when there's really bad water, even a remote chance of slipping, and you've got dangerous water below, unless you got a life jacket on and you don't mind getting wet and cold.